Chapter 1, The Girl Who Wasn't Enough, Full Deep Expansion. The sun had barely risen when Aurelia Vian woke up. Her small bedroom was still wrapped in shadows, the only light coming from the street lamp outside her cracked window. She sat up slowly on her creaky bed, feeling the familiar heaviness in her chest. For a moment, she just sat there, staring at her chipped nails resting on her thick thighs. Her room was silent except for the ticking of the old clock above her desk. It was a suffocating silence, one that reminded her of how lonely she was even while living in a house full of people. She pulled herself up and walked to her dresser. The mirror was cracked at the top corner, splitting her reflection into broken pieces. She looked at herself, at her round cheeks, her thick neck, her wide shoulders. She tried to smile but the sight only made her eyes water. She reached out and touched the cold glass. "Why can't you just be beautiful?" she whispered to herself. But the girl in the mirror just stared back with those sad brown eyes, framed with dark circles from endless nights of crying. Dragging herself into the kitchen, she was greeted by the aroma of butter and coffee. Her stepmother, Lady Marianne, was at the stove, dressed in her tailored pastel suit, hair tied neatly in a bun. Her stepsister, Selina, sat on the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone. Aurelia's stomach grumbled at the sight of the golden croissants cooling on the tray. She reached out to take one but her stepmother slapped her hand away sharply. "Don't even think about it," Lady Marianne snapped, not bothering to look at her. "You'll just finish them all and still cry about being fat." Selina laughed softly, flicking her long blonde hair over her shoulder. "Maybe if you stopped eating like a pig, someone would actually look at you." Aurelia clenched her jaw, her cheeks burning with humiliation. She lowered her eyes and stepped back silently. Her stomach twisted with hunger pains, but she refused to let them see her cry. As Aurelia picked up her faded backpack to leave, Selina called out, "Don't forget to wash the dishes before you go. And clean up after yourself. You're always so messy, it's disgusting." Aurelia nodded without a word and left the kitchen. As she walked out the door, she heard her stepmother sigh in annoyance. "Honestly, I don't know why God punished me with her." The words echoed in her mind like a cruel curse. College was no refuge. She sat in the back of her business statistics class, trying to focus on the professor's words, but all she could hear were the whispers. "Look at her arms, they're like elephant legs. I bet she eats 4 pizzas for dinner. She's such a joke." The girls in front of her giggled, covering their mouths as they whispered. Aurelia kept her head down, scribbling notes furiously even though her eyes blurred with tears. "If I just ignore them, they'll stop," she told herself. But deep inside, she knew they never would. During lunch, she didn't go to the cafeteria. She slipped into the library instead, sitting in her favorite hidden corner by the window. There, she opened her fantasy novel and escaped to worlds where girls like her became queens and warriors, where people loved them for who they were. As she read about princesses slaying dragons, her vision blurred with tears again. If only life was like these books, she thought. If only someone could see me. That evening, her phone buzzed with a call from Kieran. Seeing his name made her heart flutter painfully. "Hey, chubby cheeks," his deep voice came through, sounding warm and casual. "Wanna come over for dinner tonight? I miss you." She bit her lip to stop from smiling too widely. Kieran was the only one who made her feel like she mattered. Even though he never held her hand in public, or called her pretty, he would ruffle her hair sometimes, and his gentle voice made her stomach twist with shy happiness. "Yes. I'd love to," she whispered back, her voice trembling with hope. "Great," he said. "See you soon." When she reached home, she was about to rush to her room to get ready when she heard voices coming from the living room. The door was half open. Inside, she saw Kieran sitting comfortably on the plush sofa, his legs spread out lazily, his arm resting behind Selina. Her stepsister was laughing softly, twirling her hair with a flirtatious smile. "So, how long are you planning to keep up this pity act with her?" Selina asked. Kieran shrugged. "Until I get bored, I guess." "She's pathetic, honestly." Selena laughed cruelly. She actually thinks you like her. It's hilarious. He chuckled, shaking his head. She's disgusting. I wouldn't touch her even if I was drunk. It's just fun to see how desperate she is. Girls like her should know their place. Aurelia felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Her vision blurred as her ears rang with his words. Her throat tightened so painfully she couldn't breathe. She backed away silently, her body trembling with shock and grief. She ran to her room, locked the door, and slid down to the floor, covering her mouth to stop herself from crying out loud. Her chest hurt like it was being crushed under a boulder. Her tears soaked her sweater as silent sobs racked her body. How could I be so stupid? She felt her heart break into pieces she knew she could never put back together. Midnight awakening. That night, she lay awake staring at the cracked ceiling. Her eyes were swollen and raw from crying. She thought about her life, the taunts, the loneliness, the hunger, the humiliation. What's the point of staying here? She thought, her chest hollow with emptiness. And then, deep inside, a small voice spoke. It was quiet, but it burned with fierce determination. Leave. Change. Become someone they can never touch again. With shaking hands, she pulled herself up. The moonlight streamed through her window, illuminating her tear-stained face. She dragged her old suitcase out from under the bed and began packing silently. She took only her essentials, a few clothes, her favorite novel, her diaries, and the little envelope of money she had saved from her part-time job. Leaving. At dawn, when the sky was a soft lavender gray, Aurelia stood at the door to her room for the last time. She looked around, at the peeling posters, the cracked mirror, the torn bedsheet. Her chest tightened, but she held her tears back. She walked to the front door, careful not to make noise, and stepped outside. The morning breeze hit her face softly, carrying the scent of jasmine from the neighbor's garden. She inhaled deeply, feeling a strange sense of freedom. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know how she would survive. But for the first time in her life, she felt hope. A fragile, trembling hope that whispered, "This isn't the end. This is the beginning of your story." With that, Aurelia Vian walked away from the house that never felt like home, towards a world where she would build herself from ashes into something stronger, something beautiful, something untouchable. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2, The Ashes Before the Rise. The morning was cold as Aurelia Vian stepped off the last bus. She had traveled all night, her body aching from the hard seats, her eyes red from crying silently as strangers slept around her. She clutched her small suitcase with trembling fingers, feeling the icy wind cut through her thin sweater. The bus stop was deserted except for a stray dog curled up near a tea stall and an old man sweeping the pavement, humming to himself. First steps of freedom. For the first time in her life, there was no one to tell her what to do, no cruel words slicing her skin like invisible blades. But freedom felt heavy on her shoulders, almost frightening. Her stomach growled painfully. She hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. Her head spun slightly as she dragged her suitcase down the road lined with small grocery shops and old apartment buildings. She had no destination. She just kept walking, her tears mixing with the misty morning air. Where will I go? What will I eat? She remembered the money she carried, just enough to last 2 weeks if she was careful. Her heart pounded with anxiety, but another voice inside whispered, "You survived worse. You will survive this too." Finding shelter. By noon, her legs were numb with exhaustion. She stumbled upon a small guest house tucked between a pharmacy and a hardware store. Its peeling blue board read, "Sigh Home, monthly rooms available." She walked in hesitantly, greeted by a middle-aged woman with warm eyes and graying hair tied in a loose braid. "Yes, Beta?" the woman asked kindly. Aurelia swallowed the lump in her throat. I need a room, just for a month. I'll pay in advance." The moonlight streamed through her window, illuminating her tear-stained face. She dragged her old suitcase out from under the bed and began packing silently. She took only her essentials, a few clothes, her favorite novel, her diaries, and the little envelope of money she had saved from her part-time job. Leaving. At dawn, when the sky was a soft lavender gray, Aurelia stood at the door to her room for the last time. She looked around, at the peeling posters, the cracked mirror, the torn bedsheet. Her chest tightened, but she held her tears back. She walked to the front door, careful not to make noise, and stepped outside. The morning breeze hit her face softly, carrying the scent of jasmine from the neighbor's garden. She inhaled deeply, feeling a strange sense of freedom. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know how she would survive. But for the first time in her life, she felt hope. A fragile, trembling hope that whispered, "This isn't the end. This is the beginning of your story." With that, Aurelia Vian walked away from the house that never felt like home, towards a world where she would build herself from ashes into something stronger, something beautiful, something untouchable. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2, The Ashes Before the Rise. The morning was cold as Aurelia Vian stepped off the last bus. She had traveled all night, her body aching from the hard seats, her eyes red from crying silently as strangers slept around her. She clutched her small suitcase with trembling fingers, feeling the icy wind cut through her thin sweater. The bus stop was deserted except for a stray dog curled up near a tea stall and an old man sweeping the pavement, humming to himself. First steps of freedom. For the first time in her life, there was no one to tell her what to do, no cruel words slicing her skin like invisible blades. But freedom felt heavy on her shoulders, almost frightening. Her stomach growled painfully. She hadn't eaten in almost 24 hours. Her head spun slightly as she dragged her suitcase down the road lined with small grocery shops and old apartment buildings. She had no destination. She just kept walking, her tears mixing with the misty morning air. Where will I go? What will I eat? She remembered the money she carried, just enough to last 2 weeks if she was careful. Her heart pounded with anxiety, but another voice inside whispered, "You survived worse. You will survive this too." Finding shelter. By noon, her legs were numb with exhaustion. She stumbled upon a small guest house tucked between a pharmacy and a hardware store. Its peeling blue board read, "Sigh Home, monthly rooms available." She walked in hesitantly, greeted by a middle-aged woman with warm eyes and graying hair tied in a loose braid. "Yes, Beta?" the woman asked kindly. Aurelia swallowed the lump in her throat. I need a room, just for a month. I'll pay in advance." The woman eyed her torn sweater, her shaking hands, and her swollen eyes. Without a word, she handed her the register. Aurelia signed it and paid, her hands trembling as she placed the money on the counter. The woman took it gently and said, "Room 103. Sleep, you look like you haven't in days." The breakdown. As soon as Aurelia entered the small room with its faded curtains and iron bed, she closed the door behind her and collapsed on the floor. Her chest heaved with silent sobs as she curled into herself, pressing her forehead against the cold marble tiles. All the pain she had buried for so long came crashing down. Images flashed before her eyes. Her stepmother slapping her hand away from food. Her stepsister's cruel laughter. Kieran's mocking smile as he called her disgusting. Her shoulders shook with violent sobs as she whispered into the empty room. Why wasn't I enough? Why did no one ever love me? For hours, she lay there crying, her tears soaking the floor. She screamed into her pillow until her voice broke into nothing but silent gasps. Her chest felt hollow, as if all the life had been sucked out of her. Nightfall, the turning point. By evening, her tears had dried. Her eyes burned and her throat ached from crying, but her heart felt strangely lighter. She sat on the bed, staring at the small cracked mirror hanging above the wooden table. For the first time, she looked at herself not with disgust, but with a numb acceptance. This is me. This is what they hated so much. She studied her face, her rounded cheeks, her tired brown eyes, her dry chapped lips. Her fingers touched her soft arms, her wide stomach. She let herself see every part of her body, the body everyone called worthless. And in that silence, she felt something awaken in her chest. A quiet fire, small and flickering, but there. She whispered to herself softly. I will become someone they can never hurt again. Her tears fell again, but this time they weren't tears of weakness. They were tears of release. A new resolve. The next morning, she woke up before dawn. Her eyes were swollen, her body felt heavy with grief, but her heart beat with a new rhythm. She took out her diary and wrote. Day 1, today I choose myself. I will change my life, my body, my soul. Not for them. For me. So I can look in the mirror and love who I see. She researched fitness training academies and therapy centers in the city, using the old phone she had brought with her. She made calls, scheduled appointments, and spent her last money booking a meeting with a therapist and a fitness camp that promised discipline and transformation. As she closed her diary that morning, the first rays of dawn streamed through her window, bathing her tired face in golden light. She touched her chest, feeling her heartbeat, fragile yet alive. The final thought. Before she left her room for her first therapy session, she stood in front of the cracked mirror again. Chapter 3, The Beginning of Becoming. Day 1, Therapy. The small counseling room smelled faintly of lavender and old books. Aurelia Vian sat stiffly on the leather couch, her eyes fixed on the floor as tears threatened to spill. The therapist, Dr. Meera Kapoor, a woman in her mid-40s with kind eyes and a calm voice, sat across from her, notebook in hand. Tell me, Aurelia, why are you here today? She asked softly. Aurelia hesitated, clenching her fingers in her lap. Her throat felt tight as words struggled to come out. Finally, in a whisper, she said. Because I hate myself. The words tasted bitter and metallic. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she sobbed brokenly. Dr. Meera handed her tissues but didn't interrupt her crying. She simply waited. After a while, Aurelia wiped her eyes and looked up, her vision blurry. I don't want to hate myself anymore. I want to change everything. Dr. Meera smiled gently. Then let's start with loving the girl sitting here today. We will build you from here. Day 3, the fitness camp. The next day, Aurelia arrived at Shakti Transformation Center. It was hidden behind tall neem trees at the edge of the city, a quiet place with bamboo cabins and outdoor gyms. The first day nearly broke her. The trainer, Anshul, a stern yet fair man in his early 30s, made her do stretches, warm-ups, and basic cardio. Within minutes, her chest burned, her knees screamed in pain, and her vision blurred with dizziness. She collapsed on the yoga mat, gasping for breath, tears pooling in her eyes. I can't do this. Anshul knelt beside her, his voice low but firm. Yes, you can. You've carried the weight of people's cruelty your whole life. This pain is nothing compared to that. Get up. His words ignited something inside her. Her arms shook as she pushed herself up, sweat dripping down her temples. She felt like she would die, but she got up again. That evening, she lay in her bamboo cabin, staring at the ceiling fan rotating above her. Every muscle in her body ached, her skin was raw with blisters, and her tears soaked her pillow. I want to give up, but I won't. Day 15, the breakdown. 2 weeks passed in painful repetitions, therapy sessions in the morning, workouts all day, and quiet dinners alone in her room. Her body was sore, her stomach constantly growled with hunger as she ate the strict meal plans of green juices, boiled chicken, and vegetable soups. One evening, she stood in front of the mirror in the training camp's common washroom. Her oversized t-shirt clung to her sweat-soaked body. She lifted it slightly, staring at her stomach folds, her thick thighs, her wide arms. Tears filled her eyes. Nothing has changed. Her reflection whispered cruelly, "You're still ugly." She broke down, falling to her knees as sobs racked her body. Other trainees watched silently as she cried, her cries echoing in the tiled room. She buried her face in her palms, shaking with despair. But then, a gentle hand touched her shoulder. She looked up to see Ria, another trainee who had lost 20 kilograms already. Her eyes were soft as she said, "Don't cry. You're trying, and that's beautiful." Day 30, the small victory. A month passed. Her therapist noticed her calmer breaths, her steadier voice. Her trainer noticed her improved stamina. One morning, she ran an entire kilometer without stopping. As she crossed the finish line, gasping for breath, sweat dripping down her face, Anshul clapped softly. "Well done, Aurelia." For the first time, she smiled genuinely. Her chest swelled with pride and tears pricked her eyes, not out of pain this time, but from realizing, "I can do this." Night meditation. That night, she sat cross-legged under the neem tree, listening to the wind rustle the leaves above. The moonlight bathed her tired face in silver glow. She closed her eyes and placed her palms over her heart. "I promise you," she whispered to herself, "I will become someone they can never hurt again. I will become someone you're proud of." As she opened her eyes, the moon seemed to shine a little brighter, as if blessing her silent vow. Crescent moon. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, Rising from the Ashes. 2 months later, the change. 2 months had passed since Aurelia Vian first stepped into Shakti Transformation Center. The once trembling girl with swollen eyes and broken confidence now stood taller, her shoulders pulled back, her chin lifted slightly with quiet pride. Her body was changing. Slowly, the heavy bloating on her face reduced, revealing high cheekbones hidden for years. Her thick arms were firming up, her stomach folds shrinking inch by inch, and her thighs, though still wide, felt stronger beneath her. The mirror scene, a different reflection. One morning after her sunrise workout, she entered her bamboo cabin and stood in front of the long mirror propped against the wall. Sweat dripped down her temples, soaking her navy blue sports bra and leggings. She hesitated before lifting her top halfway to look at her stomach. She blinked. She looked again. For the first time, she saw change, a faint outline of her waist curving inwards, her stomach not as round as before. Tears filled her eyes. She traced her waistline with trembling fingers, a soft smile breaking on her lips. "You're doing it," she whispered to herself, her voice choked with emotion. "You're really doing it." Therapy session, self-love. In therapy, Dr. Mira noticed the glow on Aurelia's face. "You look lighter today," she said gently. Aurelia smiled shyly. I saw myself in the mirror today. For the first time. I didn't hate what I saw." Dr. Mira's eyes softened. "That's because you're finally seeing yourself, not through their eyes, but through your own." Tears welled up in Aurelia's eyes. She took a deep breath and whispered, "I think I'm learning to love myself, little by little." The push beyond limits. Training grew harder. Anshul increased her workouts, high-intensity circuits, uphill runs, weight training. Her legs burned like fire, her arms trembled with exhaustion, and there were days she collapsed, gasping for breath with tears streaming down her flushed cheeks. But every time she fell, she heard Anshul's voice. "You've carried the pain of people's cruelty your whole life. This pain is nothing compared to that. Get up." And she did. Every single time. Day 60, the breakdown and breakthrough. On the 60th day, after a brutal evening cardio session, Aurelia sat on the training field alone. The sun was setting, casting a warm golden glow over her tired face. Her legs were folded to her chest, her forehead resting on her knees as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. She felt overwhelmed. The memories came back, Lady Marianne slapping her hand away from food, Selena laughing at her body, Kieran's cruel words echoing in her mind. "You're disgusting. No one will ever love you." Her chest heaved with sobs, her tears soaking her knees. But then, a thought broke through her darkness like a crack of light. "But I love me."